everyone, Lou here. As a certified vampire and Castlevania lover on this channel, it's high time to do a review of Castlevania Nocturne. Castlevania Nocturne premiered in January 2025 to some pretty massive critical acclaim from what I saw online. Some criticisms from Season 1 remained, the same with everything else, but for the most part the series was well received for everyone and we were eating good this season. Though I do think it's still really weird. We've never explained if Dracula is dead or if him and Lisa resurrected like at the end of the original series or if that was retconned. I'm assuming it was, based off some stuff a friend of mine told me who did some research on the production more than I did. Anyway, let's review it for ourselves and see if this is keeping the story of Castlevania alive or if this is going to be draining. Get it? We do open with Alucard traveling to a tomb in Egypt, killing all the vampires guarding the tomb, only to find absolutely nothing. We cut to a few hours later after the fight with Drolta, where Alucard had killed her and saved them all from that. Richter gives Alucard an update on the situation while Maria is awake and sulking out of grief that her mom has now turned into a vampire for her sake. The Holy Knight guy Olrox has a thing for, whose name I finally remembered is Mizrak, has now joined the group and keeps leaving Bay Olrox on red because I guess he wasn't ready for the commitment of a vampire boyfriend, or the fact that everyone he thought he was close to ended up tricking him, follows someone as evil as Ursabet, or the fact that Olrox wouldn't let him die a hero. Totally not foreshadowing. Needing a new strategy, because obviously their last plan failed miserably, Alucard tells them that the Egyptian god Sekhmet is technically split in two with a Ba or Ka, and Ba is the body and Ka is the soul. If you've seen me talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! On this channel, as well as the manhwa Aeneid, I was super giddy about this incorporation because I've been getting really into Egyptian mythology lately. Anyway, he tells them that their last chance is her Ba, or body, which was already found gone when he went to Egypt before the events of Nocturne. So he believes that it may have been taken by the aristocrats of France and is now in the Palace of Versailles, along with other valuables of the aristocrats. For some reason, the Netflix description says this is the Louvre, but I don't think that location is the Louvre. That looks like the Palace of Versailles to me. Anyway, Richter and Annette agree to go, while Richter leaves Maria in the care of Just and Mithrax. I swear I keep forgetting his name even while recording. Before they left though, Alucard and Maria have some alone time where he talks about his father with her and how he doesn't actually think all vampires are evil. Some are capable of love and maybe kindness, but just like humans, it's rare to see that in this world. It's also implied Maria may develop a teensy crush on Alucard by the way she blushes around him. Meanwhile, Terra does end up visiting Maria while they're gone, and it's clear that Terra is struggling to keep her humanity and vampiric nature in control. She still loves her daughter, or a part of her does, but it's clear she's not the same person anymore as the darkness and violence of vampirism has corrupted her. If you're wondering about Drolta, because if you remember she was killed by Alucard in the last season, Ursabet makes Maria's father try to bring her back. We also get a flashback that she was a priestess of Sekhmet who was trying to resurrect her, until she was attacked by vampires and turned into one herself for the sake of resurrecting her goddess. I do like that they portray the good and bad sides of an Egyptian god too, since Sekhmet was considered a healer, but then is also a god of war, much like Set was before he was cast out by Osiris. If I'm getting that right anyway. I know Egyptian mythology is just like really weird and honestly kind of hard to follow. Now Drolta is back as a vampire night creature this time, or I guess technically a succubus if you're trying to follow the game's lore. And Maria's father learned that night creatures can regain their sentience if their soul is strong enough, so unfortunately this bitch's strong soul means she's fully back for real. Which isn't a shock when we learned about this before with Isaac in the original series, where he talked to his night creatures and they remembered who they were. Maybe things are more advanced now because now there's like that whole night creature machine thingy. Anyway, back to Maria. Asking her mother Terra to help adjust her powers, the anger over what's happened to her mother makes Maria hell-bent on killing her father out of revenge, and anger for everything he's done. At first, Tara tries to tell her not to, but Maria doesn't listen and goes back to the church to break all hell for her father. I've always felt that so many people underestimate the concept of Maria in the Castlevania series, kind of just boiling it down to a Disney princess, if that makes sense. But they dive deeper by explaining that her powers stem from pulling animals from an unknown universe. However, this new darkness has let Maria summon darker and more ruthless monsters, including a giant wolf and even a dragon. Which, if you play the game, summoning a dragon is Maria's sort of ultimate or strongest move in both Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night, so that's not really a shock, but it is if you never played the games. This makes Maria's abilities spiral out of control from anger, and her father obviously unable to fight back, where Just comes in to try and help her. In a surprising twist, Just regains his ability to use magic too, after realizing from Richter that there's still people he needs to protect. He uses his magic to dispel the dragon, but it's too late when it roasted Maria's father to smithereens, all the while feeling no relief and falling into depression that none of it really satisfied her. Strangely though, a black shadowy figure takes her father's dust away, which seems to be some sort of devil, maybe death is back. I honestly don't know. Ulrux tries to explain who this is by referencing the old man coyote legend in Native American tribes, but I'm still left kind of confused because it was still very vague to me. Tara tells Maria that she realizes she's a bad influence because of this, even though she tells her he definitely deserved to die, and vanishes from Maria's life by saying she needs to find herself. I guess this is taking Eat, Pray, Love to a whole new level. Meanwhile, Richter accidentally revealed Ursabet's spies that they're going to find Sekhmet's body in Paris, which fucked up the whole plan. Drolta storms the palace and takes the corpse, leaving the gang temporarily separated and screwed. However, Annette has been haunted by the spirits this entire time, which I still haven't found the time to look up what Annette actually follows, but hey, it's still cool. The spirits tell her that because Sekhmet is a goddess, there's a third part of her they can use to still save the day, and that's her godhood that's still in the afterlife, specifically the Egyptian one, which I know is called Duat. Being the only one who can travel to the afterlife, Annette decides to send herself there while Alucard and Richter keep watch over her, where Alucard tells Richter he really should confess his feelings because we all know this dude has feelings for Annette. Also, on the side of this, there's a revolution captain who was turned into basically the Ice Shade from Symphony of the Night, and while that is really cool, it felt really useless and just an attempt to get Edouard to do something. It's kind of supposed to be hinted maybe he'll cause the night creatures to rebel, but I feel like that goes nowhere and was just an excuse to throw in another enemy design from the games. Which is totally fine. I've always loved the moments they include in-game enemies as someone who's played the games, but this has been the one instance where it felt like filler to hit that 8-episode limit. Personally, I think there could have been more room for someone else, but oh well. So Annette was able to strike a deal with Sekhmet in that she'll help her reunite with all 3 pieces of herself in exchange for Sekhmet to take over her body for the power to do so. This gives Annette a super badass magical girl transformation into Sekhmet, and let me just say, I love this design. The dress, the long locks, the cat features. Oh my gosh, I am in love! While Sekhmet takes over her body, Annette has to fight off a beast who's trying to keep her here in the afterlife until this deal is over. Thus begins a battle between Team Belmont and Team Bathory, where Alucard leads the Standing Revolution army with Maria and Just arriving just in time to help in the battle. Edouard also starts the fight with a traditional African song, which sounds really pretty. Like, Edouard hardly does anything this season, but I say it's okay only because his singing voice is gorgeous. Thus begins an epic battle with Richter keeping Annette's body from blowing up because of Sekhmet's powers being the
full concentrated power of the sun!
This battle is awesome with several characters using their powers to the max, and let me tell you, this battle is hell because of how impossibly strong Ursabet is, especially now that she's consumed Sekhmet's body. I'm not gonna go too far into it just because I still want to save you guys these moments to be shocked by. Mithrix does get fatally stabbed though, and it makes Olrox lose it and bust into his lizard dragon form from the games. Once he kind of helps knock Sekhmet down, he goes to hide Mithrix for now, where Alucard confesses he saved his life before. Kinda wish I saw that because I'm curious, but maybe we'll get a spin-off or prequel someday about Simon Belmont or something like that to explain when the hell did Olrox save Alucard's life? Annette was close to reuniting all parts of Sekhmet together until Drolta stormed in and she realized Ursipet was dying and absorbed both Sekhmet's Ba and Ka from her, believing she's the only one left who can rebirth her goddess. Now that Drolta is the night creature, vampire, and Egyptian god all at once, she is ultra powerful and goes on a rampage attacking all our main characters. Hell, she almost kills Alucard before he tosses his sword to Richter, who combines the vampire killing sword with speaker magic to unleash basically what I assume is a power-up from Rondo of Blood, but I don't recognize it because it's been too long since I played it. Only doing this was Drolta fatally weakened and Sekhmet could finally absorb all three parts of herself once again. Annette almost dies, but thanks to Richter's love, she's able to return from the land of the dead, and Sekhmet goes to rest in peace. Everything is returning to normal, the eternal night finally ends as dawn breaks out, and everyone can finally breathe a sigh of relief. Annette and Richter confess their love for each other, while he decides he's going to go with her to continue the fight to end slavery in the Caribbean. Maria decides to stay and fight the revolution, while Juice stays to help her out, and Alucard says he wants to see how this world will play out. See another hint that Maria definitely has a fat-ass crush on Alucard when she blushes again when he says he wants to see how the revolution specifically will play out. However, we get hints that something is going to go wrong again, with this black shadowy figure now taking full control of Terra and is eyeing Maria due to her hatred of vampires and vampire supporters. This is, at least to me, hints that the Symphony of the Night storyline might get flipped on its head, as Maria may become corrupted and the Lord of the Castle, while Richter will go with Alucard to save her. It's pretty obvious that it'll be Alucard's time to shine with his own full season next, but remember that Netflix animated shows are kept on by a hope and a prayer, so please support the series if you want to see more droplets of that come to life. I am desperate to see a Symphony of the Night. Okay guys, I love that game, so I want to see their interpretation of it so bad. Thus ends Season 2 of Nocturne. This feels pretty short for now. I don't know if Nocturne will get a third season or a separate one to tell the next story, but so far I am loving this ending, and I actually liked the characters more than the original series. I think because everyone feels very real and relatable, even if their issues are on a completely different scale. Aria is that struggle we have as teens to balance our emotions or overcome trauma and grief. Richter has to learn to stop living in survival mode and fight for others. Juiced has to learn how to live for others again. Annette learns to embrace her spiritual connections instead of harboring fear for it. And even Alucard is reminded of familial love for the Belmonts and sticks around again. Yeah, the pacing is pretty fast, but I honestly can't blame anyone too much when Netflix is notorious for treating original animation projects like shit. So there's only really so much you can do under the pressure of a big company who wants like Stranger Things numbers with every production. I mean, overall I liked the story a lot, and it was badass. How does this animation keep getting better and better as this series goes on? Oh my gosh, the animation was stunning this time around too. I see a lot of people complain Alucard was too pale this time around and that he was so pale they thought he was hardly colored in, but I think that's just maybe to show how old he is. I saw a really interesting theory that his human side is dead and that's why he's so pale now, and honestly, that kind of makes sense to me. I mean, he is half vampire, so I feel like you can kind of fill in the gaps on what he can and can't do or how his biology works. Personally, I thought he looked fucking beautiful, but that's just me, the world's biggest Alucard simp. There's not too much I can say without repeating myself from Season 1, just that I feel the animation is one of the main catching points when it comes to Castlevania. This and Arcane really are showing just how incredible animation can be for fight scenes and action storytelling in my eyes. Overall, the animation is stunning as always. I'll be honest, I thought this was an even more exciting storyline than the original Rondo of Blood. Yeah, you know, obviously Dracula coming back every game works for a franchise like Castlevania because a game like that has to be written into a cycle so new fans aren't alienated coming in if there's a big existing story, while old fans keep guessing on how Dracula is going to come back. It's like The Legend of Zelda, you know, yeah, there's a couple games without Ganon or Ganondorf, but he is the main villain people expect, and it works for that kind of format as a video game because it's just that type of video game, you know? A TV show can't work the same way a video game's writing can, and that's largely why so many video game adaptations fail. I mean, one, it's always adapting something that can't really work as an adaptation, or two, it's people who want to make a quick buck and don't give a shit about a quality product. So bringing back Dracula over and over again would leave a show like this, that mind you added so much complexity to Dracula in the first series, feeling kind of hollow and honestly kind of cheesy. Even JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, one of my favorite anime series, is often compared to Castlevania for having a vampire that hunts an entire bloodline, but Dio is permanently killed in part 3, and after that it's merely characters left haunted by him or unfinished business he left behind. Replacing Dracula with Ursula Bathory was an excellent choice when this is another historical figure we know and pop culture was largely inspired to create a vampire figure from. Because remember that the Dracula we know was also inspired by the historical figure of Vlad Tepes III. I thought Ursula was a fine villain too, completely self-absorbed and irredeemable, to contrast Dracula who went mad with his grief and pain. The same goes with the writing of existing characters in the series. Annette having no personality beyond love interest and Tara just "thank you for saving me and here's some exposition on what to do next" works in the game because you're playing the hero, rescuing the damsels in distress, and finding roast chicken in the walls. Nothing wrong with that, but it works in the game because Castlevania is honestly goofy in a lot of the games, especially Rondo of Blood, which largely takes its inspiration from shonen anime on its sleeve. And if you know anything about a stereotypical shonen anime, it's that female characters being well written is kind of a rarity. That's why I love the Netflix series of Nocturne, because it gave these characters a unique flair and made them more memorable. I guarantee you that when I think Annette, I don't think of a lady with purple hair, or the remake design where I confuse her for Juice's wife from the other games. I think of a literal metal bender who had an Egyptian deity inside her body. When I think Tara, I don't picture some nun lady in a blue ponytail who dumps exposition. I think of a woman who gave up her humanity so her child could live and then felt darkness protecting her child. When I think Olrox, I don't just picture Count Orlok from the 1920s version of Nosferatu, but a complex and distinguished vampire. And come on, you have to admit that a Native American vampire is an extremely creative concept, and this design is just a solid 10 out of 10 for me. That all, at least to me, is way more interesting and I feel is explored in a way more fascinating way. Yeah, some complain we don't need diversity, but you know, I welcome it as long as you do something with it and make choices like this, where the characters have personality and complexity as well as a well-rounded design. For me, I loved Nocturne just as much as the original series, and I am really excited to see whether or not we're finally getting a Symphony of the Night adaptation, or maybe even a prequel to go back and tell the tale of the Belmont who started this entire franchise in the first place, Simon Belmont. That'll be it for this video. Remember that if you want to see more Castlevania, to please support the show by watching it on Netflix, since Netflix is kind of an asshole when it comes to animated series, so the company needs to know we're craving some more good food, okay? What did you guys think of Castlevania Nocturne? Did you love it? Did you hate it? I loved it, but as always, let me know down below. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new. If any of you would like to help support my channel in any possible way, my Ko-fi page is down below in the description, along with all of my social media. For any subscribers, new or old, who'd like to help with video ideas, or maybe just want to talk about anime or something, I have a fan server linked down below. See you next time!